My name is Kero Korodudu. This is our special weekly bulletin where we talk about the stories shaping our world and give you insights to make sense of the global political landscape and help you to understand what is happening around the world. These are our top stories for this week. Pakistan says it will deport 1.7 million Afghans and all other illegal immigrants. Israel at war as Hamas gunmen launch surprise attack from Gaza. Turkey's Erdogan tells supporters he does not recognise LGBT. Dengue will take off in Southern Europe, US, Africa this decade. Asian Games ticket revenue exceeds 610 million yuan. And now, stories. Pakistan says it will deport 1.7 million Afghans and all other illegal immigrants. Pakistan's foreign ministry has said it will carry out plans to deport all illegal immigrants, including 1.7 million Afghans, in a phased and orderly manner, in an apparent attempt to assuage widespread concerns after the policy's unexpected announcement earlier this week. Islamabad said on Tuesday that anyone without valid documentation would have to go back to their countries voluntarily before 31st of October to avoid mass arrests and forced deportation. The announcement sent a wave of panic among those living in the country without papers and withdrew widespread condemnation from rights groups. Activists say any forced deportation of Afghans will put them at a grave risk. Mumtaz Sara Balok, the spokesperson for Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said on Friday that the new policy was not aimed solely at Afghans. We have been hosting Afghans refugees generously for the past 4 decades, since millions fled Afghanistan during the 1979 to 1989 Soviet occupations, he said. Those 1.4 million Afghan nationals who were registered as refugees in Pakistan need not worry, she added. Amnesty International has asked Pakistan to allow the Afghans to continue to live in the country, and a spokesperson for the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has expressed concerns about the policy. The Taliban government's chief spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid criticised Pakistan's announcement, saying it was unacceptable and that Islamabad should reconsider the decision. Although Pakistani security forces and police have routinely been arresting and deporting Afghans without valid documents in recent years, this is the first time that the government has announced plans for a major crackdown. Israel at war as Hamas gunmen launch surprise attack from Gaza. Israel retaliation kills nearly 200 Palestinians after Hamas operation. At least 198 people have been killed and 1,610 wounded in the Palestinian enclave of Gaza during Israel's retaliation after a deadly multi-pronged attack by Hamas forces into Israel, the health ministry says. The growing casualty toll on Saturday came after the Palestinian group running the Gaza Strip launched the largest attack on Israel in years, infiltrating areas in the south of the country following a barrage of thousands of rockets fired from the besieged territory. Israel's National Rescue Service, Magen David Adom, said at least 70 people have been killed as hospitals in Israel are treating hundreds of wounded people, including dozens in critical condition. Local media reported the number has now risen to at least 100 dead. Hamas said gun battles are raging in dozens of areas inside Israel. Israel's military launched a series of air raids on Gaza in response to the attack. Dozens of Israeli military fighter jets are currently striking a number of targets belonging to the Hamas terrorist organization in the Gaza Strip, it said. Mohammed Daif, a senior Hamas military commander, said the rocket fire marked the start of Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, and he called on Palestinians everywhere to fight the Israeli occupation. Turkey's Erdogan tells supporters he does not recognise LGBT. Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan said on Saturday he did not recognise LGBT and vowed to combat perverse trends which he said aim to destroy the institution of family in the country. Turkey's government, led by Erdogan and his Islamist-rooted AK party, has toughened its stance on LGBTQ freedoms in recent months, particularly while campaigning for this year's election in May. Homosexuality is not a crime in Turkey, but hostility to it is widespread, and police crackdowns on pride parades have become tougher over the years. Speaking at an AK Party Congress in Ankara, Erdogan, who has frequently labelled members of the LGBTQ community as deviants, said neither his party nor their nationalist MHP allies recognise the LGBTQ community. We do not recognise LGBT. Whoever recognises LGBT can go and march with them. We are members of a structure that holds the institution of family solid, that strongly embraces the family institution, he said. We will dry the roots of sneaky acts aiming to destroy our family institution by supporting perverse political, social and individual trends, he told tens of thousands of flag-waving and chanting supporters. After the United Nations General Assembly in New York last month, Erdogan complained that he was uncomfortable with the use of what he described as LGBT colours at the UN, which at the time was decorated with bright colours, promoting the Sustainable Development Goals. Dengue will take off in southern Europe, US, Africa this decade, WHO scientist says. London dengue fever will become a major threat in the southern United States, southern Europe and new parts of Africa this decade. The WHO's chief scientist said as warmer temperatures create the conditions for the mosquitoes carrying the infection to spread, the illness has long been a scourge in much of Asia and Latin America, causing an estimated 20,000 deaths each year. Rates of the disease have already been eightfold globally since 2000, driven largely by climate change, as well as the increased movement of people and urbanization. Many cases go unrecorded, but in 2022, 4.2 million cases were reported worldwide, and public health officials have warned that near record levels of transmission are expected this year. Bangladesh is currently experiencing its worst ever outbreak with more than 1,000 deaths. Farah said the infection is likely to take off and become endemic in parts of the United States, Europe and Africa. All regions where there has already been some limited local transmission, as global warming makes new areas hospitable to the mosquitoes that spread it. That will put acute pressure on hospital systems in many countries, he warned. The clinical care is really intensive. It requires a high ratio of nurses to patients, he said. I really worry when this becomes a big issue in sub-Saharan Africa. Most people who get dengue do not have symptoms, meaning case rates are thought to be far higher than the reported numbers. Those who do can experience fever, muscle spasms and joint pain so severe it is known as break bone fever. In severe cases, less than 1%, it can be fatal. There is no specific treatment for dengue, although there is a vaccine available. Earlier this week, the WHO recommended Takeda Pharmaceuticals dengue vaccine for children aged 6 to 16 in areas where the infection is a significant public health problem. Dengue is spread by infected Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, which behave differently to the malaria-carrying kind. For example, they bite people indoors and they bite all day rather than overnight. They also breed in very shallow water. Asian Games ticket revenue exceeds 610 million yuan. Over 3.5 million tickets for Hangzhou Asian Games have been sold, with revenues exceeding 610 million yuan, 83.5 million US dollars, organizers said on Saturday. We are seeing skyrocketing ticket sales, and the total number is more than 3.5 million tickets sold, generating more than 610 million RMB ticket sales, Hangzhou Asian Games chief spokesperson Mao Genhong told a press conference on Saturday. The Hangzhou Asian Games will draw a close on Sunday. Mao stated that operations have been smooth and orderly. Indeed, it feels like these games have just started, but we are at the close of the Asiad, he added. That's all the news roundup from me. Thank you and goodbye.